Hi guys, and welcome to Escape with Watch Reviews. My name is Steve, and today we're going to be looking at the WM watch, or Welly Merk watch, model 142M. I received this watch for free. I don't have to send the watch back, but you guys know the deal by now. No matter how I get a watch in on this channel for a review, you're going to get my honest opinion every single time. And if by the end of this review you do want to pick one of these up, I'll be leaving a link down in the video description that is to the official Welly Merk or WM watch store on AliExpress. That is an affiliate link, so if you do use that link, you're not going to pay any extra or anything like that. It just earns a little bit of commission for the channel to help keep things running. The retail price for this watch, I believe, is right around 125 to 126 US dollars. That's before any taxes or sales, customs, coupons, etc. WM watch, they do participate in the sales, so if you are patient, you can probably save like 15 to 20% off the price of this watch. The watch comes in two different colorways that you can see here. I think they both do look pretty good. And then they offer this on both the stainless steel bracelet, which we have here, or the leather strap, which I also believe we have, and I'll show you that later. The watch case is made of 316L stainless steel. It has a sapphire crystal, a push-pull crown, a screw-down case back, 50 meters of claimed water resistance, and the watch is powered by a modified Hangzhou 7200A automatic movement, which we'll also talk about here in a little bit. So this is another WM watch that gets a lot of inspiration from Christopher Ward. It honestly looks fantastic, but what about the execution? I say we get right into the full review. But before we do a quick wrist check today, wearing the Chronos. I can't remember the model number of this thing. Still need to review this one for you. It's an older design watch, but yeah, I still do really like it. All right, let's talk about dimensions. Got a case diameter of 41.6 millimeters, case thickness of 12.8 millimeters, got 20 millimeter lug width, lug to lug of 48.6 millimeters, and with those male end links, we have a total length of 53.8 millimeters and sized up for my 7.5 inch wrist with 3 links removed. It weighs 139 grams. So it is a pretty big watch, and we do have some discrepancies against the, what they're showing online. So they say it's 41 millimeters. It's a little bit bigger than 41 millimeters. They also say it's 12 millimeters thick. It's also a little bit more than 12 millimeters thick. So just something to note. So, but yeah, it is a pretty big watch. It's almost 42 in diameter, and it's all dial. So it does wear a little bit bigger than I like a watch to wear, especially a watch in this design. You do have some decent hook down to those lugs, but you can see the case back does protrude down a little bit, so that the hook down on the lugs is more of just a visual thing. It just wears like a pretty flat watch. So yeah, I'll go outside right now and I'll throw it on my wrist for you. And here we are on my 7.5 inch wrist, and as you can see, the lug to lug is short enough. It's got a very large dial, so it does wear a little bit bigger than the dimensions suggest. You can see there, decent little hook to those lugs, so it does hug the wrist a little bit better than just a flat case, but it is still just a pretty flat case, and you can see it does look a little bit slab-sided, but I do think it looks pretty good with all the polished accents on it. I think the dial looks pretty cool as well. I was able to get a pretty decent fitment on the bracelet, but the watch does feel a little top heavy. And here we are in some more direct sunlight. There you can see nice blue sunburst dial on this thing. It looks really cool. The dial in general just looks really cool. I do like the way it does. It kind of catches the light and the different layers of it. Really nicely done in my opinion. All right, let's go throw this on some straps and let's get back to this review. And here we are on the stock strap. You can see here it is a curved end strap. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but it's actually not terrible. You can tell that it's a little stiff out of the box, but I feel like it's going to break in a little bit better than your typical AliExpress strap, especially one at this price point. So it does look pretty good. It's not a shiny croc strap, which I'm a big fan of. And it does have a pretty nice butterfly clasp as well. So yeah, overall pretty satisfied with the stock strap options on this thing. But I think we can do a little better. And here we are on a mesh strap. As you can see, I think it looks pretty good. Looks pretty decent. This one is off of an old Pagani design, but yeah, I think it actually works on this one. What do you guys think? And here we are on a Vario vintage leather strap, and I think that looks awesome. The blue and the tan always look really good together, in my opinion. That's a pretty classy strap combo. And lastly, here we are. I just had to throw it on my favorite summer strap, and this is the cut to size FKM straps. Absolutely loving these things still, and I actually think it looks pretty decent on that. The color match is pretty good. Alright, let's go back inside and let's get back to this review. Alright, so let's talk about the case finishing. So case finishing is a mixture of brushed and polished surfaces. You have a polished bezel here. You can see it's kind of a step, it's a little rounded edge there down to a little step. Pretty nicely done though. I see no issues with that. I think that looks pretty darn good. On the tops of the lugs here, you have a vertical brushing. Again, nicely done. Pretty nice, consistent, fine brushing. On the sides of the case, you have a horizontal brushing, and again, really nicely done, nice and consistent. That does get a little bit muddy in these corners, as you can kind of see right there. That's kind of typical for a watch in this price point. I mean, I've seen other micro brands in like the $600 range that have a similar issue with these kind of tight creased corners there. So yeah, just something to note, but on the wrist, you don't really notice it. Flipping it over to the crown side here, you do have a 6.5mm signed crown here, just a push-pull crown. It's fine. It does seem a little bit small for this case, and but it seems easy enough to turn and stuff like that and manipulate. So not a huge deal. There you can see the signage on it. It's a fully polished crown there. The case does have these really nice polished chamfers on it though. Pretty nicely done. Nice and crisp transitions as well. It's not San Martin level or anything, but nicely done for the price, I think. So yeah, pretty happy overall with the case finishing on this thing. Flipping it over to the case back here, you have a screw down case back, simple notches to get a tool in there, brushed and polished surface there. We got a little spec sheet around the outside, and then we got a nice big display window showing off that Hangzhou 7200A movement. Really, I mean, it's actually a pretty nice looking movement, and it's a pretty impressive movement for what for what you're paying. So we'll cover the specs of that movement here pretty soon, but yeah, it's a very nice movement with a nice rotor. It is a custom rotor. You can see there, Welly Merk, 21 joules. So yeah, really happy with that. I think it looks excellent. I'm going to pop up right here whether this is mineral or sapphire. I didn't test it yet, but I will test it here in just a second. But yeah, it does look really, really good. All right, so let's talk about the crystal. We'll test it for sapphire. It is positive for sapphire. So we do have a sapphire crystal on the front. I don't see any inner reflective coating. I don't see any mention of AR coating in the listing either. So I don't believe there's AR coating on this thing. It's not horrible. Flat sapphires, I really don't feel like they need AR coating, but on a dial like this, I kind of wish they would throw some AR coating on it. There's a lot of reflective surfaces with that plastic layer there, and it kind of would clean this up just a little bit in my opinion. But yeah, you can see there, it doesn't really sit up above the bezel at all. Just a dead flat piece of sapphire crystal. It is, like I mentioned earlier, mineral on the back. So yeah, the crystal on this thing is fine. I'd like to see some AR coating, but I'm not going to knock them too hard just because it's a flat crystal. All right, getting up close, we'll talk about the dial on this thing. The dial is really cool. There's a bunch of different layers to it. So you have this outer layer here, which kind of sits on top of everything else. And that is where you have your applied indices. Those are lumed. And then you have this kind of a transparent, smoky layer here, which handles the moon phases there. And then you have the spinning disc in the back, which is your moons moving around. So lots of different layers to it. I think it all looks really good. This blue model has a really nice but subtle sunburst. It's a very dark and deep blue. I picked this one just because I thought it kind of reminded me more of the night sky. Obviously, the other one's black, so that one will look good as well. But I really do think this looked cool. The moons on these things, they mentioned them being a 3D. Hopefully, let me see if I can show you guys here a little bit better. But they do have a definite like 3D effect to them. They kind of pop out a little bit. It's really interesting and nicely done. There you can see up close. It looks, a little splotchy up close, but from far away, they look fantastic. But you can see here all the stars in the background, both moons, those are lumed as well. The hands are lumed, obviously. So the lume on this is actually pretty cool. We'll get to the lume here in just a moment, but you can see the handset there that they chose, really nicely done. I do like the counterbalance on that second hand. I'm not really sure what it's supposed to be, but I think it looks pretty cool. Nice long second hand there with the red tip. I think it all looks very nicely done, nicely sized hands as well. So it's a pretty legible watch given how busy the dial is. So you have your WM branding down here. Obviously this one is Welly Merk, but I believe if you buy this watch now, it's not going to come Welly Merk branded. It's just going to be WM watch branded. So yeah, it's something to know, and I do like that more than this. So overall, I am pretty happy with the dial on this thing. It's really interesting. I like the 3D effect to the moons. Yeah, nicely done. And I'm going to pop up a lume shot here, and you can see it against a couple other watches in the collection. They don't really compete with this watch, I'll say, but I feel like they're two ends of the spectrum when it comes to the lume. And you can see just the lume on this watch is really cool looking, but it is not very effective. It doesn't last very long at all. So a little bit disappointed in the lume in this watch. All right, so let's talk about the movement and the crown on this thing. So the movement, it is a version of the Hangzhou 7200A. So it is 28,800 beats per second. So 8 ticks of the second hand every second. That's nice, smooth sweep there. 21 joules. 72 hours of power reserve. So that's kind of a big selling point. This thing was next to a couple other watches in the watch box for 3 days. Those ones died, and this one was still ticking around and probably had another day left in it. So yeah, the power reserve on this thing is real. 72 hours is, pretty awesome for a watch like this. So especially in this price point. So yeah, the movement, they're really nicely done. They hack, they hand wind. They have a date module, and they replaced the date window and the date wheel with this moon. So this is not a true moon phase. It's 31 clicks all the way around. So it's not the 28 and a half or 29 or whatever it's supposed to be. So yeah, a little bit disappointing in that, especially since I believe somewhere on the listing it says that it's a true moon phase, and it's just not. So or maybe that was a review that I saw. I think I saw someone review this thing and saying that it was a true moon phase. Well, it's not. So just something to note. I know some people are going to care about that. I think most people are just buying this for the look. So yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. So I'm pretty happy with the movement in general. I think it looks good. Yeah, I mean, it's a very nice movement to look at. And it does have a bidirectional winding rotor too, which is nice. So yeah, overall, I'm pretty satisfied with it. And it's been running great for me. Here's how it's been running. I cannot complain about that in a watch in this price point. I can't complain about that in a watch at any price point. So yeah, pretty darn happy with the movement in this thing so far. Yeah, it's been great. And Hangzhou, they've been around for a very long time. So I think the accuracy and the longevity of this movement is going to be pretty good in general. And I think, when the time comes to service this watch or replace the movement, that's when you're going to kind of run into some issues. It's not as readily available as the NH35, but you can still buy these things. This is a brand new movement, came out like 3 or 4 years ago. So they're going to be producing this one for a while, I think. So yeah, just might take a little extra work to get the moon phase swapped over and stuff like that. But to operate the movement, it's just like any other watch pretty much. So you have a 3 o'clock. So you have a 3 o'clock push-pull crown here. Again, signed with the WM branding. First position here is your hand winding. Second position is the moon. So you rotate that forward and it clicks around. I mean, it looks pretty cool, I gotta say. They did a really nice job with that. Pulling it out to the third position hacks the movement every single time. And this is where you set the time. Everything functions as it should. The alignment on it, spot on. So no real issues there. Pushing the crown starts it back up every single time. So the movement in the crown, it all works just as described, except that's definitely not a true moon phase, which is a little bit disappointing. So let's talk about the bracelet. So the bracelet is 20 millimeters and it tapers down to 18 millimeters at a butterfly clasp, which we'll talk about here in just a moment. It is a 5-link bracelet. As you can see here, they are solid links. You have solid end links as well, male end links, so it does protrude out just a little bit. You have push pins for sizing. You have polished on the sides, and then you have pretty nice finishing on the bracelet itself, brushed on those 3 links and then polished on the 2 links flanking that middle one. Pretty nicely done, even getting up close. This is usually where companies kind of skimp on the polishing. They did a pretty decent job on this one. The end links you can see here, they're done pretty nice. They flow with the case nicely. There's no gaps or anything like that. I can feel them wobbling a little bit, but that doesn't really translate on the wrist. You can't really see that or feel that on the wrist. Same with this one here. You can definitely feel it wobbling back and forth, but only when I'm grabbing onto the end link and really yanking it. So yeah, the bracelet itself is actually pretty decent. The tolerances are pretty good. There's a little bit of jangle to it, but about what I expected for a watch in this price range and a bracelet of this design. The fluidity of the bracelet is fine. This bottom edge isn't sharp or anything like that. So it's a very comfortable bracelet. Doesn't pull my hairs or anything like that. Working our way to the butterfly clasp. You guys know how I feel about butterfly clasps. I'm not a fan. This one works fine, however, but it's just a standard butterfly clasp, fully polished, fully milled. Everything functions as it should. The buttons, they don't really dig in or anything. They're nicely rounded. The tolerances at the clasp are pretty good. I think that's where a lot of the rattle comes from, though. And then the nuances of a butterfly clasp is you don't have micro adjust, and you don't have half links in the bracelet. So sizing is going to be hit or miss. I know that is immediately a deal breaker for a lot of people. I was able to get a pretty good fitment. It is a pretty heavy watch though, so you might be on the more tight side, more tight than you're used to, just to keep it from flopping around. So yeah, the bracelet on it is fine. I just don't like the setup. I never have and I never will. So yeah, I'm going to kind of knock them every single time, even if I do get a good fitment on these things, which I typically do, but I'm still going to knock them. They gotta use a regular clasp every single time, and that would make this watch a lot more appealing to a lot more people, in my opinion. And sorry about the new perspective, and sorry about the dirty hands. This is a new day. I completely forgot to show you guys the stock strap. So this is the optional strap that you can get. It's $1 for the bracelet, so I would probably just go with that. This one, pretty decent. It does have quick release spring bars, but you can see they're curved ends there. I'm not sure why. There's no real clearance issues with straps, but I guess that's a nice little touch. It is an alligator or crocodile style print. Not too bad, actually. I feel like it was pretty stiff out of the box, but it has broken in nicely, and I feel like it's a little bit higher quality than what you typically see. So yeah, I think the strap is actually pretty decent, and I think it looks pretty good on the watch itself. It does come with a signed WM watch buckle, which is nice to see. It is a butterfly buckle, which is pretty cool. Helps keep the creasing out of the strap and stuff. So yeah, it actually functions pretty good. It's 20 millimeters, tapers down to 18 millimeters. That's where I was for my 7.5 inch wrist. So it'll probably go up to about 8 inches and down to about 6.5 maybe. So yeah, I think the size on it is actually pretty good as well. And like I said, the quality does seem to be pretty decent. So yeah, you're actually getting a pretty nice strap on this one if you like this style. So there you go, guys. That is the WM Watch 142M. It's definitely a Christopher Ward homage. For $100 or so, you're getting a pretty nice complete watch. It's a stainless steel bracelet and case, sapphire crystal, movement with 72 hours of power reserve, and that smooth sweep, and it looks that good. Yeah, I mean, I think that alone, coupled with the dial, I think it looks really nice. The lume is disappointing, which is to be expected. The bracelet sizing system, again, to be expected, is pretty bad. But you know, if you can get past those couple things, I think this is a pretty cool watch, and there's not a whole lot out there that kind of looks like this. So yeah, I think that's it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.